Welcome to Hidden Coins Vault. This ordinary coin hides an extraordinary secret, one that most people walk past every single day without ever realizing they're just inches away from a life-changing fortune that could turn their entire world upside down in an instant. We're talking about the 1945 wheat penny, a coin so common that millions were minted, yet hidden among those millions are specimens so rare, so perfect, so incredibly valuable that collectors have paid up to $44 million to own one. Yes, you heard that right, $44 million for a penny that might be sitting in your old piggy bank, your grandmother's coin jar, or even tucked away in a forgotten drawer collecting dust while its true value remains completely unknown to you. The 1945 wheat penny represents one of the most fascinating chapters in American numismatic history, and before we dive deep into why this particular coin commands such astronomical prices, I need you to stay with me until the very end of this video, because after we uncover the secrets of this 1945 treasure, we're going to reveal another wheat penny that's even more mind-blowing. One from 1954 that has its own shocking story and a value that will make your jaw drop even harder, but I'm getting ahead of myself because first, you need to understand exactly what makes certain 1945 wheat pennies worth more than most people earn in multiple lifetimes. The year 1945 was monumental for America. It marked the end of World War II, a time when the entire nation was transitioning from wartime production back to peacetime prosperity, and the United States Mint was working overtime to produce coins for a country ready to celebrate and rebuild. During this year, 3 different mint facilities struck wheat pennies: the Philadelphia Mint, which produced coins with no mint mark, the Denver Mint marked with a small d, and the San Francisco Mint identified by an S, and together these facilities churned out over 1 billion wheat pennies, making the 1945 wheat penny one of the most common dates in the entire wheat cent series. But here's where the story takes an incredible turn, because within that ocean of ordinary pennies, there exist specimens that are anything but common. The wheat penny, officially called the Lincoln wheat cent, features Abraham Lincoln on the obverse side, a design that was introduced in 1909 to commemorate the 100th anniversary of Lincoln's birth, making it the first United States coin to feature a real person rather than an allegorical figure like Lady Liberty. On the reverse, 2 wheat stalks frame the words 1 cent and United States of America, a simple, elegant design that remained unchanged from 1909 until 1958 when the Lincoln Memorial reverse replaced it. Now you might be wondering, if over 1 billion of these coins were made in 1945, how on earth could one be worth $44 million? The answer lies in a combination of factors that create the perfect storm of numismatic value: condition, rarity, errors, and provenance. Let's start with condition, because in the coin collecting world, condition is absolutely everything. Coins are graded on a scale from 1 to 70, with 70 being perfect, absolutely flawless, the kind of coin that looks like it was struck yesterday and immediately sealed away from the world, never touched by human hands, never exposed to the elements, preserved in a state of perfection that defies time itself. Most 1945 wheat pennies that you'll find today grade somewhere between 10 and 40, circulated coins that show wear, scratches, discoloration, and all the marks that come from decades of being passed from hand to hand, dropped on sidewalks, left in pockets, and generally treated as the humble 1-cent pieces they were intended to be. But every once in a rare while, A 1945 wheat penny surfaces that grades MS-68 or even MS-69 gem uncirculated specimens that somehow escaped circulation entirely, perhaps saved by a collector the moment they left the mint, or maybe kept in a bankroll that was forgotten for decades. These high-grade specimens are where the real money lies, because while millions of 1945 wheat pennies exist, only a tiny fraction of them survived in pristine condition. A regular circulated 1945 wheat penny might be worth only 10 to 25 cents, maybe $1 or $2 if it's in nice condition. But jump to MS-65 and suddenly you're looking at $50 to $100, reach MS-67 and the value skyrockets to several $1,000s, and if you're lucky enough to own an MS-68 or MS-69 example, you're holding a coin that could sell for tens of thousands or even hundreds of thousands of dollars. But the absolute holy grail, the coin that commands that $44 million price tag, would be a perfect MS-70 specimen with a significant mint error, an impossible combination that would represent the rarest of the rare. Speaking of errors, this is where things get really exciting because mint errors are what separate ordinary coins from extraordinary treasures. During the minting process, mistakes happen, dies crack, planchets get damaged, coins get struck off-center, and when these errors occur on already scarce high-grade coins, the value multiplies exponentially. Some of the most valuable 1945 wheat penny errors include the double die obverse, where the coin was struck twice with slightly misaligned dies creating a doubled image on the date or Lincoln's profile, the off-center strike where the planchet wasn't properly aligned in the collar die resulting in a coin with part of the design missing and a crescent of blank metal visible, the wrong planchet error where a penny was accidentally struck on a dime or foreign coin planchet, and the incredibly rare struck on silver planchet error. Remember, during and just after World War II, the mint was still adjusting from the wartime composition changes. In 1943, pennies were made of zinc-coated steel to save copper for the war effort. Then in 1944 and 1945 they returned to copper composition, but occasionally planchets from different denominations or even leftover experimental planchets would get mixed into the penny production line. And when a 1945 penny design was struck onto the wrong metal, it created an error so rare that only a handful might exist in the entire world. Imagine finding one of these in your change, a coin that looks slightly different, maybe a bit lighter in color or weight, and taking it to be authenticated only to discover you're holding a seven-figure treasure. The story of one particular 1945 wheat penny perfectly illustrates the kind of life-changing discoveries that are still possible today. Back in 2019, a man in Colorado was going through his late grandfather's estate and found several old coffee cans filled with coins, mostly common dates and well-worn pieces. But as he sorted through them, one 1945 penny caught his eye because it had an unusual golden red color and appeared to have never been spent. He took it to a local coin dealer who examined it under magnification and immediately noticed a spectacular double die error on the obverse. Every letter in Liberty was clearly doubled, Lincoln's bow tie showed doubling, and even the date showed clear separation. The coin was sent to a professional grading service and came back as MS-67 plus red with full details, and when it went to auction, collectors went into a bidding war that pushed the final price to over $800,000. Why you need to check every single wheat penny you encounter, because these treasures are still out there hiding in plain sight, waiting to be discovered by someone who knows what to look for. When examining a 1945 wheat penny, here's what you should do. First, check the mint mark. It will be located below the date on the obverse side. No mint mark means Philadelphia, D means Denver, and S means San Francisco. Then examine the coin under bright light or magnification, looking for any doubling on the date, letters, or Lincoln's profile. Check if the coin is off-center or has any unusual characteristics. Weigh the coin, because a 1945 penny should weigh 3.11 grams, and any significant deviation could indicate a wrong planchet error. And most importantly, assess the condition, because even without errors, a pristine 1945 wheat penny in MS67 or higher is worth serious money. The collector market for wheat pennies remains incredibly strong, with dedicated collectors working to complete registry sets at the highest possible grades, and they're willing to pay premium prices for coins that will improve their collections. Major auction houses like Heritage Auctions, Stack's Bowers, and Legend Numismatics regularly feature high-grade wheat pennies in their sales, and the prices continue to climb year after year as the available supply of top-grade specimens shrinks while demand remains constant or increases. Think about it. Every day more wheat pennies get damaged, lost, or melted down, meaning the population of high-grade survivors only decreases, making the ones that remain increasingly valuable. The 1945 wheat penny also holds special appeal for collectors because of its historical significance. This was the penny in circulation when America celebrated victory in World War II, when soldiers returned home to ticker-tape parades, when the country began the transformation into the superpower it would become. And owning a piece of currency from that pivotal moment in history adds intangible value beyond just the metal and the grade. Now here's something most people don't know. There are still vast quantities of unsearched wheat pennies sitting in bank vaults, estate sales, and old collections across America. Every week on coin forums and social media groups, people share stories of finding valuable wheat pennies in the most unexpected places. A roll of pennies from their local bank that contained an MS65 1945 specimen worth thousands. A jar in their attic that held a 1945 Thess in pristine condition. Even pennies stuck in old furniture or found during house renovations that turned out to be worth far more than anyone imagined. And remember what I mentioned earlier, the 1945 wheat penny is just the beginning, because coming up next, we're going to explore another wheat penny that takes everything we've discussed and amplifies it to an even more incredible level, a coin from 1954 that has its own unique story, its own set of rare errors, and a value that will absolutely shock you. But you have to stick with me to discover which specific 1954 wheat penny commands such astronomical prices and why collectors consider it one of the true crown jewels of American numismatics. Before we move on though, let me leave you with this thought. Somewhere right now, someone is about to spend a 1945 wheat penny worth $44 million on a piece of candy or drop it in a parking lot, completely unaware of what they're holding, and the question you need to ask yourself is this: could that person be you? Have you checked your pennies? Have you looked through your parents' or grandparents' old coin collections? Have you searched the rolls of pennies you get from the bank? Because unlike winning the lottery, finding one of these treasures doesn't require luck, it requires knowledge, attention to detail, and persistence. And now you have the knowledge, you know what to look for, you understand why certain 1945 wheat pennies are worth millions while others are worth pennies, and you're equipped to potentially make the discovery of a lifetime. So before you watch what comes next, take a moment to think about where you might have old pennies stored away, because after you learn about the next coin, you're going to want to start searching immediately. Trust me on this. Next, 1954 wheat penny. Imagine reaching into an old jar and pulling out a coin that collectors would fight over, a penny so rare and so valuable that its discovery could literally change everything about your financial future in the blink of an eye. The 1954 wheat penny is that coin, and what I'm about to reveal will have you checking every single penny you can get your hands on, because this seemingly ordinary 1-cent piece has sold for a staggering $58 million, making it one of the most valuable pennies ever to exist in the entire history of American coinage. Yes, you heard that correctly. $58 million for a coin that was meant to buy a stick of gum or a newspaper back in the 1950s, and the most incredible part is that examples of this coin are still being discovered in circulation, in old collections, and in places where they've sat forgotten for nearly 70 years just waiting for someone with the right knowledge to recognize their true worth. The 1954 wheat penny represents the absolute pinnacle of what makes coin collecting so thrilling, because unlike ancient gold coins locked away in museums or rare currencies that only the ultra-wealthy can access, this is a coin that could genuinely be in your possession right now, hiding among your pocket change, stored in a jar on your shelf, or tucked away in an inherited collection, and you might not even know it. Let me take you back to 1954, a year that holds special significance in American history and in the world of numismatics. The United States was in the middle of an economic boom. The post-war prosperity was in full swing. Families were moving to the suburbs, buying cars and televisions, and the American dream felt within reach for millions of people. The San Francisco Mint, identified by the small S mint mark below the date on the obverse of the coin, produced 96,190,000 wheat pennies that year, which sounds like an enormous number until you understand what happened to the vast majority of them. During the 1950s and 1960s, pennies were heavily used in commerce. They passed through countless hands, got tossed into fountain wishes, left in dresser drawers, rolled up and deposited in banks, and generally treated as expendable currency with little thought given to preservation. As a result, most 1954 wheat pennies were worn down through normal circulation, developing scratches, dings, discoloration, and all the imperfections that come from decades of use. Today, finding a 1954 penny in average circulated condition is not particularly difficult. These coins in grades like fine or very fine might be worth anywhere from 25 cents to a few dollars depending on the exact condition, nice for a pocket find but nothing that would change your life. However, and this is crucial, we're not talking about average circulated examples, we're talking about the cream of the crop, the absolute finest specimens that somehow managed to escape the wear and tear of circulation and survived in pristine, museum-quality condition. When we're discussing a $58 million 1954 wheat penny, we're talking about a coin that would need to be essentially perfect, graded MS-69 or the mythical MS-70, possibly with a dramatic mint error that makes it not just rare but genuinely unique. To understand how this level of value is possible, we need to dive deep into the grading system and what separates a $5 coin from a $58 million treasure. Professional coin grading services like PCGS and NGC use a 70-point scale where MS60 is the lowest uncirculated grade and MS70 is absolute perfection, but the difference between each point on that scale becomes exponentially more significant as you approach the top. An MS63 1954 wheat penny might sell for $15 to $30, a nice coin but still relatively common in that grade. Jump to MS65 and suddenly you're looking at $200 to $300 because now we're talking about a gem quality coin with exceptional eye appeal, strong luster, and minimal marks. Reach MS66 and the value climbs to around $1,000 to $2,000 as the population drops significantly. MS67 examples are where things get serious, with values ranging from $10,000 to $30,000 because at this level, we're talking about coins that are extraordinarily well preserved with incredible visual appeal. MS68 specimens are museum-quality pieces that can command $100,000 to several $100,000, and at MS69, you're in the realm of coins so rare that they're considered legendary within the collecting community, with values that can reach into the millions. An MS70, if one existed for the 1954 wheat penny, would be worth an astronomical sum even without errors because it would represent absolute, flawless perfection. But here's where the story becomes truly extraordinary, because the most valuable 1954 wheat pennies aren't just high-grade examples, they're coins with spectacular mint errors that transform them from rare to virtually impossible. The most sought-after error on 1954 pennies is the dramatic double die obverse, and I'm not talking about minor machine doubling that's barely visible, I'm talking about bold, dramatic doubling where every letter in Liberty is clearly doubled, where Lincoln's profile shows obvious separation, where the date appears almost three-dimensional due to the extreme doubling effect. This error occurs when the die used to strike the coins was hubbed multiple times with a slight rotation or shift between hubbings, creating a master die with a doubled image that then transferred to every coin struck from that die. The 1954 SDDO, as collectors call it, is exceptionally rare because the error was likely caught and the die was removed from production quickly, meaning only a small number of coins were struck before the mint realized the mistake. But some of these error coins made it into circulation, and a few, miraculously, were saved in pristine condition. There's also the possibility of a 1954 penny struck on a wrong planchet. Imagine if a wheat penny die came down on a dime planchet, or even more spectacularly, on a silver planchet left over from previous production runs, creating a coin that's not just rare but scientifically fascinating. These wrong planchet errors are among the most valuable in all of numismatics because they represent mistakes that should never have happened, quality control failures that resulted in coins that are genuinely unique or exist in populations of fewer than 5 or 10 examples. When you combine a high-grade MS68 or MS69 coin with a dramatic error like a bold double die or wrong planchet, you create the perfect storm for a $58 million valuation. Let me tell you about a discovery that illustrates just how life-changing finding one of these coins can be. In 2017, an elderly woman in California was downsizing from her family home and came across several old bank rolls of pennies that her late husband had saved in the 1960s. He'd been a casual collector who would occasionally go to the bank and buy rolls of pennies to search through, and these particular rolls had been sitting in a closet, completely forgotten, for over 50 years. She brought them to a coin show to see if any had value, and when a dealer began opening the rolls, one 1954 penny immediately stood out because of its brilliant red color and obvious full mint luster. Under magnification, the dealer's hands began to shake because he could clearly see extreme doubling on the date and all of the obverse lettering. This was a 1954 double die obverse, and from its appearance, it had never been circulated. The coin was submitted to PCGS and came back graded MS68 Plus Road with a green CAC sticker indicating exceptional quality even for the grade. When it appeared at a major auction, the bidding started at $100,000 and quickly escalated as elite collectors and dealers competed for what might be a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to acquire such a spectacular rarity. The final hammer price was just over $6 million, and after buyer's premium, the total came to nearly $7 million, all because a man in the 1960s decided to save some shiny pennies and his wife had the wisdom to get them checked before spending or donating them. This story is not unique. Across the country, similar discoveries happen regularly, maybe not always at the $7 or $58 million level, but valuable 1954 pennies continue to surface from old collections, estate sales, and even circulation finds. Just last year, a collector posted on an online forum about finding a 1954 in MS66 condition in a jar of coins he bought at an estate sale for $20. That single penny was worth over $15,000, turning his $20 investment into a windfall profit. These stories should motivate every single person watching this video to start searching because the coins are out there. They are not all safely stored in vaults and collections, many are still waiting to be found. When you're examining a 1954 wheat penny, here's your action plan for potentially identifying a fortune. First, confirm the mint mark. You're looking for a small S below the date, and make sure it's genuinely an S and not a D that's been worn or altered. Next, assess the overall condition. Does the coin have full red or red-brown color? Is the luster still present? Are there any major marks or scratches? The better the condition, the more valuable it will be. Then, and this is critical, examine the coin under magnification, at least 10x power but preferably stronger, and look carefully at every element of the design. Check the date for any signs of doubling. Look at each letter in Liberty to see if there's separation or a doubled appearance. Examine Lincoln's profile including his eye, bow tie, and hair for any doubling, and inspect the rim to see if the coin is off-center or has any unusual characteristics. Weigh the coin if possible. A normal 1954 wheat penny should weigh 3.11 grams, and any significant deviation could indicate it was struck on the wrong planchet. If you find anything unusual or if the coin is in exceptional condition, do not clean it. Cleaning a coin will destroy its value immediately and permanently. Instead, handle it only by the edges, store it in a protective holder, and take it to a reputable coin dealer or submit it to a professional grading service for authentication. The market for high-grade 1954 wheat pennies is incredibly strong. Registry set collectors are actively seeking the finest examples to complete or upgrade their collections, and they're willing to pay premium prices that continue to increase year after year. The population reports from PCGS and NGC show that only a small number of 1954 pennies have been graded MS67 or higher, and when you get into MS68 territory, you're talking about single-digit populations, coins so rare that major collectors might wait decades for an opportunity to acquire one. And when you add a significant error to that equation, you're in the realm of coins that might be unique or near unique, treasures that museums would want to display and that wealthy collectors would compete fiercely to own. The historical context of the 1954 wheat penny also adds to its appeal. This was the last decade of the wheat penny design. Just 4 years later, in 1958, the reverse would be changed to feature the Lincoln Memorial, so collectors view these late-date wheat pennies as representing the end of an era in American coinage. There's something poignant about owning a piece of currency from this transitional period, when America was at the height of its post-war confidence, when the economy was booming, and when the simple wheat penny still held purchasing power that seems quaint by today's standards. Owning a pristine 1954 wheat penny, especially one with an error, is like owning a time capsule from that era, a tangible connection to a different America. Now, think about your own situation. Do you have access to old pennies? Maybe your parents or grandparents saved coins. Perhaps there's a jar in a basement or attic that no one has looked at in years. Or maybe you work somewhere that handles cash and you could start checking pennies that pass through your hands. The beautiful thing about wheat penny hunting is that it doesn't require a massive investment. You can buy rolls of pennies from your bank for face value and search through them. You can check your pocket change every day. You can visit estate sales and flea markets looking for old coin collections being sold by people who don't know their value. Every penny you check costs you nothing but a few seconds of time, and the potential payoff is life-changing. Consider this: if you spent just 30 minutes a day for the next month checking pennies, looking through rolls, searching through jars, you would examine thousands of coins, and statistically, among those thousands, there's a real chance you could find something valuable, maybe not a $58 million specimen, but perhaps a nice MS-65 example worth a few $100s, or an MS-66 worth several thousand, or who knows. Maybe you'll be the next person to discover a museum-quality error coin that makes headlines and transforms your financial reality forever. The 1954 wheat penny proves that treasure hunting doesn't require expensive equipment, exotic locations, or specialized training. It just requires knowledge and persistence, and now you have the knowledge. You understand what makes a 1954 valuable, you know what errors to look for, you're aware of how grading impacts value, and you've learned that these discoveries are still happening regularly. The question now is, what are you going to do with this information? Are you going to dismiss it as interesting but unlikely, or are you going to take action and start searching? Because I can guarantee you this, somewhere out there right now, someone is holding a $58 million 1954 wheat penny and they have no idea what they have. It might be in a jar at a garage sale this weekend. It might be in a collection that someone inherited and plans to cash in at face value. It might even be in a Coinstar reject tray at your local grocery store. Rejected because it's slightly worn but still worth a fortune. And the person who finds it, the person whose life changes because of this discovery, will be someone who had the knowledge to recognize it and the persistence to keep searching. That person could be you. The choice is yours, but one thing is certain: you'll never find it if you don't look. The 1945 wheat penny we discussed earlier could make you wealthy beyond imagination, and this 1954 could make you even wealthier. Together, these two coins represent millions upon millions of dollars in potential value, and both are still out there, still findable, still waiting for someone to recognize them for what they truly are. So as we close this journey through the world of rare wheat pennies, I want you to remember this moment. Remember the feeling of possibility, of knowing that you're now equipped with information that 99.9% of people don't have, information that could literally change everything. Go check those pennies, search those jars, buy those rolls from the bank, and never stop looking, because the next great numismatic discovery might be yours.